This is the road frontage for the 20-acre parcel on Oakland Road in Forest City. It extends to about that post right there, and then follows up to the road. That's the closest neighbor. Here is the road frontage. Oakland Road can be a fairly busy road at times. It's kind of hit or miss. But the subject property begins here, extends straight back through this field. We're going to take a walk that way, and I'll catch up with you when we get there. The terrain through this field is fairly flat. It does slope slightly to the right, and there's a few small hills, but nothing substantial at all. There is some type of buried line here. It says it's a gas line, so there's a buried gas line. This is the edge of the easement, so it looks like the gas line runs through here. I'll find more information for you out about that. So this is about halfway from the road to the back of this clearing. This is still on what would be the driveway. Honestly, there's a decent amount of space here that could be used for pasture or something similar as well, if that's something that interested you. We are about 3/4 of the way back now from the road in this clearing. And at this point, the property opens up. So far, it's followed from about right here down to the wood line. It's the width of the property. I don't have a big measuring tape with me right now, but I would say that's probably 75-ish feet wide. Once you get right here, the property opens up a lot and cuts back to the left, follows approximately this pre-existing fence line. There is an old survey marker right here. So if that is the old survey marker, this fence is technically on the subject property. There's another fenced-in area up here. This is a nice big open space. Again, relatively flat. And this seems to just be a brush pile of some sort, where over the years they've dug up some stumps and cut some limbs and things like that. There's an old barn back here too. I'll look at the map in a moment and see if it's on the subject property or not. I don't believe it's going to be. I believe the property line follows pretty closely to this fence here. But all of this is. So the property line does follow approximately this fence line. That barn is not part of the subject property. I am about 1/3 of the way left to right. The road frontage is up here in front of these homes now. So everything back behind us, this is all part of the subject property, and then it extends a good long way here to the left. We'll get out in the woods here in a moment, take a look around. Looks like there's a mix of mature hardwoods and pine. So I've just come out of the fenced-in area there we were in, where the barn and such is. We're walking towards the back of the property now. The road frontage is in behind me. We'll catch up when we get back there. Okay, we are now at the very back of the clearing at the front of the property. Looking back this way is where the road frontage is. This is also where the driveway would most likely go for access to the property. All of this is part of the subject property. And now there's a trail that leads back through the woods. We're going to take a walk through here. The creek is in the very back of the property. This trail is about 10 or 15 foot wide. So far, mainly pines. So I am right in the middle of the wooded portion of this property. About as in the middle as you can get. There's a real nice clearing back here. It does change elevation just a bit coming downhill, but that creek is towards the back of the property, which is where we're headed, so that's pretty typical as you get closer to the creek. That clearing that looked like a big trail on the overhead map seems to be a gas line right-of-way that goes on the right-hand side of the property. I'm not confident that you would be able to use that as a driveway, but that's something I can find out for you. Let's keep walking. Lots of game trails back here. Deer tracks in the snow, which is something we don't get to see very often here in North Carolina. It's pretty neat. Relatively speaking, there's very minimal undergrowth in the woods. Now, obviously, it's wintertime. In the summer, that may be a bit of a different story, but it's not a whole lot to tame. Mainly, it's saplings and not a bunch of vines and things like that. There is some, don't get me wrong. In certain areas, it gets a little thicker, but for the most part, it's a real nice. All right, so I found the creek, and it's not at the complete back of the property. It is a little more than 3/4 of the way back. I'll find a way to get down to it a little better here in a moment. But there's the creek. It's not real big, but it sounds beautiful. There's a small trail that runs from just where the creek is. The creek is just over there. This is the big clearing I was talking about. Up on top of that little hill there is where I think a good home site would be, but there's a trail that runs over to where that big trail is, where the easement is. We're walking over that right now. This is the most drastic elevation change I found on the property so far, and this is in that easement. The road frontage is back up this way. Then of course it's cleared. This whole right of way, this whole easement has been cleared quite nicely. The main bulk of the property is over here. There is part of the subject property over here though, and I'll send you some maps showing that. To be more specific, this trail, this right of way, splits the property almost in half. So there's just about as much property on the right side as there is the left side. So I'm standing in the creek. There's certainly some deeper holes, and it does widen in certain areas. I'm a little more than halfway from the front of the wooded area to the back of the wooded area. As you can see, most of the timber is fairly mature hardwood. Up towards the front, there's more pines. The closest neighbor back here is just on the back side of this right-of-way. Again, as much on the right side as there is the left side. We're going to walk out this way for a moment now. So I came across what looks to be an old well back here in the woods. Not sure if that's actually what it is or not, but it's what it looks like to me. This is on the right-hand side, coming down that pathway, and it definitely is more steep on the right than it is on the left, but it's still not anything unreasonable. The creek is just down there.